we addressed, or you addressed, the offensive front. There was another question concerning the other side of the ball with the defensive line not being able to get off blocks.
Yeah, I think you saw some inconsistent play on the defensive line. As Steve mentioned, Reggie Grimes had 2.5 sacks in that game. Played really, really well across the defensive line. But I think what you saw is, and I think one thing that's going to be a key indicator this year about how good Oklahoma can be defensively throughout the season, in terms of if they're able to get some pressure with just the front four. If they're not able to get a lot of pressure with that front four and they're having to resort to sending a lot of blitz packages and things like that, then it puts your secondary certainly at some risk. If that's the case, but it'll be interesting to see. Again, game one, we'll see how they improve from game one to game two. I think if most people remember, Oklahoma came in with tons of talent last year on the defensive line and really underachieved for the most part, just across the board throughout the season. So we'll see if maybe it's a little bit differently. This team starts a little bit slower and gets a little bit better. But as I mentioned, very, very vanilla. So wait to see how they how they begin to come together. But I think what you saw out of Reggie Grimes makes you very, very pleasantly surprised that he can take a big step and be that pass rusher. And you've got Ethan Downs, you've got R. Mason Thomas, Marcus Stripling, guys that can rush the passer. But as I mentioned, they only blitzed a handful of times, and typically it was very much like if for Oklahoma fans that watched the spring game, the defense was very much the same. Like they brought some stuff up the middle from the backers, but they didn't bring people off the edge, and they didn't give a ton of different looks. So it's hard to really get a super good gauge on exactly how this defense is going to perform early on in the season. Again, and it's going to be the same for the most part, I think, this week with Kent State. But I think you'll see pretty much full playbook once you go to Lincoln in a couple of weeks.